Welcome, everyone. Welcome to Connecting Community Initiative Committee meeting, October 21st, 2024 at 6:32 p.m. And Lily, would you read our blah, blah, blah?
I would be delighted. I will share with all of you that certain meetings normally held in municipal offices being held remotely with adequate alternative means of public access and where required public participation provided in accordance with House Bill number 58, 193rd General Court, which extended the governor's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, Master Law, Chapter 38, Section 20 until March 31st, 2025.
Excellent. You're getting faster every time, Lily.
So is she
All
gonna
right.
get a job on one of those ads?
I was gonna say
that,
drug commercial. It'd be perfect.
Yeah. I
All
don't
right.
expect flute.
Okay, kids, meeting guidelines. Speak one at a time. Follow Deerfield Code of Conduct. Be respectful, considerate, courteous, concise, and non-repetitive. And I'm going to take roll call. Jim Cambias.
Present.
Julie Chalfont. Here. Lily Dwight.
Here.
Present. Andrea is not here yet. I haven't heard from her. I'm here. Christopher Dunn should be showing up soon. M.A. Swedland.
I'm here.
Here.
And I would say that Alan's not home from the open space meeting yet either, so I'm guessing that she'll be showing up soon.
Okay, great, thanks. And Mark Brennan.
Mark Brennan, present.
Excellent. Okay, good. So we can probably just start off. Everyone have a chance to look at the minutes from September 16th. And if there are no additions, corrections, do I hear a motion?
I move that to approve the minutes as written.
All right, do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor, Lily?
Aye.
Jim?
Aye.
Julie?
Aye.
Mark?
Mark, aye.
And M.A.?
Aye.
And Denise, aye. So minutes are approved unanimously. Okay. Excuse me, I'm going to go on to committee reports. And let's see, I'll start off with Jim.
Okay, so the last library meeting, let's see, we wrote a check for $500,000 to the town, so
What?
we're doing our part. That
Wow.
pretty much drains our accounts for now. Let's see, we got some, we had been hoping that we could maybe rattle the cup for a little extra CPA money, but no dice. If you didn't ask for it when you started the project, you don't get to ask for it when it's halfway through. So we didn't get that. We didn't get that memo in advance. So the building committee has already had a tour of the building, but the rest of the trustees have not yet. So I don't know what it looks like inside. We are applying for more grants. If Chris was here, he could probably tell you, but we're trying the Amelia Peabody Foundation, the Massachusetts Cultural Committee grant for capital projects, which might at least be something to help pay for furniture. We had come up with a fundraising idea, which would be basically a gift card for local craft breweries, but apparently state law says you can't do that because you're basically giving away booze that way. So we can't do that. So we might repurpose it for coffee shops. They're having a pickleball tournament this Saturday to raise money. So all the big pickleball bucks will come rolling in. We're organizing our end of the year general appeal mailing. We're thrashing, coming up with the final wording on the appeal letter and stuff for the mailing. I believe this year, instead of asking for donations to the Tilton Fund capital campaign, we're asking for just donate to the building fund, or at least that's where all the donations will go, because as we discovered last year, a lot of people, including myself, didn't understand the difference. So, wrote my check to the annual appeal, and then, you know, they're asking me, how come you didn't donate to the building fund? Well, I wrote a check. What are you talking about? And if you know, I was supposedly paying attention at those meetings, so if I didn't get that, no, I don't think anybody else would. Let's see. And we're looking for other ideas. We still have a online raffle in the works for some wine that Tim Hilchey has donated. It keeps getting pushed back. I'm not sure why. I guess other things just get in the queue ahead of them. And in the meantime, the library is progressing. We did come up with a new policy, both for now and for when the new building is finished, for homebound delivery service. So that people who are unable to visit the library for whatever reason, we can conceivably get books to them anyway if they, you know, order
Nice.
online. So we approved that, and so I don't think it's going to involve any additional expense. So that's about it. You know, otherwise
Great.
we're all watching the building go up.
Yeah. Hey, Jim, by the way, we just had a building committee meeting just a while ago. Excuse me, sorry. And while we were on, I did a little research and I sent some information to both Satu and Candace. You know what? I'll send that to you as well. It's grants for computers for nonprofits in Massachusetts. And I think there are half a dozen of them, but I think 4 of them would probably meet the timeline. The first one is due October 31st. So that's a little ambitious, but you never know, Jim. If you're a real go-getter, you could just do it. But
I've
yeah,
never
so
written a grant
definitely
in my
check that
life.
out. I'll send that to you, okay? Because I mean, I don't know what Candace is busy. I don't know whether that's her forte. Doing and same with that too. So if you guys are working on that, I'll send that to you.
Okay,
Okay,
thank you.
you're welcome.
Because yeah, we haven't quite reached the point of hanging out at the dump with the coffee cans, but I'm
Yeah.
probably expect at some point we will be.
Oh God. And Julie, you were there when we did the tour through that. So do you want to talk about that? The library tour? I mean, I don't know. What to talk about.
So it was pretty early on. The sort of the steel structure for the addition was up, but and there were floors, like we could walk on both floors. And that was about it. Everything has been pulled out of the old building. So any like unforeseen conditions have now been seen. So, almost nothing. Like it was pretty good. There was a big rock in the basement that they had to get out of the way, and or maybe it probably wasn't in the basement. It was probably under the new building or something, but it was very minor compared to what could have been. So that's fortunate because that's money saved. And I mean, it felt spacious and good, and it's gonna be nice.
Yeah. Still, excuse me, still working on a lot of things. I had to leave the meeting early, but we're talking about furniture and so that's
Well, basically they took furniture out of the building budget because it was over the building budget. And
Yeah.
they're hoping if there's any savings in the, if the costs come under budget, they can squeeze furniture back in. But otherwise, we'll be using at least some of the existing furniture.
Yeah, depending. Yeah, I think it's going to be a balancing act doing all of that. But any grant funding would be great. So I mean, I think checking out the computer one would be good because
Yes, very much.
That's a lot of money.
Furnishings and to some extent computers too are also something that can be acquired incrementally.
True.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So one thing that was an ad alternate that did not get done because there was no money is this sort of large canopy over the door and the sort of walkway up to it, with the idea that would be a covered place that you could have outdoor stuff if needed. And so there's some vague hope that can get added back in. But money's pretty tight. So,
There
they're
was-
working, they're like trying to scale down the canopy to get that as cheap as possible. And then they're looking at the technology budget and the furniture budget and just sort of seeing how they can. So no decision has been made on that, but there's discussion about it.
There was also some discussion about essentially getting a separate donor for that. Like seeing if we could get a Hamshaw lumber was mentioned.
Yeah.
To sponsor
So they
that
did
particular
volunteer in kind
Yeah.
donations. So they're gonna give stuff they sell, wood. And that discussion came up today also. I don't know, I'm not in the loop to know how much wood they want to donate. But the library is buying quite a bit of, any wood that they need and other stuff that Hamshaw sells, they are buying from Hamshaw. So there is actually some
Well, that's nice.
venue there for them to make that contribution, in-kind contribution rather than dollars, which is nice because it'll go farther that way.
Yeah, I mean, and I didn't bother pursuing this, probably next meeting, which I don't know when that is, by the way. I think it's really important to do the canopy, and I think that there's strong possibilities of getting grant funding for technology and, working things out for the furniture. So I'd really like to push for that canopy because in my mind, I don't think that's going to happen if we don't do it now. I mean, they were talking about putting in the structure for it, but I think it's just better to do it to begin with, if we're able to. So anyway, well, thanks, Julie, for that. And Jim. So I'm going to move on, Julie, while you're at it. How about your report?
Finance committee has not met since special town meeting, and we probably won't meet until January. I don't have a start date yet, but pretty soon after the first of the year, we'll start back in. The town building advisory committee has been meeting and will continue to. There's two things we're working on. One is sort of renewing the charter because we've been operating under the same charter all along. So we're looking at that, but more importantly, we have gone through a list of all the town-owned buildings and sort of discussed the status of each building. And then the next step is working through a sort of major capital projects that would be associated with those buildings over the next long term, 20-ish years, with the goal of providing all that information to CIPC.
Good.
And the form came out, but I don't know the due date because I should have, but I haven't read it. So,
I have a question, Julie. A few years ago, the senior housing committee did this inventory of town-owned land. And we presented that to the select board. And it's sort of, I don't know what's ever happened to it, but are you using some kind of an inventory software? Because I have it all in a spreadsheet, and it might make sense if what we're looking at are town assets that aren't managed. I don't know. What do you think? How are you guys doing it?
We have a list that was made up when we first started, when town building advisory first started, but it's just like a list, right? It's not in any sort of management software. And that was used when we did that initial survey of the town buildings. We narrowed down the building, whatever. So that had a bunch of information on it, on all the buildings.
Yeah.
The list we're doing now, we started with that list. We've gone and looked in the online property thing for everything owned by Deerfield and confirmed that we're hitting all the buildings. We are not doing cemeteries or ball fields or sewer piping or, so there is other infrastructure out there that we're not going after. My personal hope is that I'm going to stray off for a second. My personal hope is that when we hire a new highway department person, chair, what's the word? Superintendent. There we go.
Yeah.
That not necessarily them, but they will establish within the highway department a person who really focuses on facilities and is a facilities manager. There is one of the positions in the highway department. It's a sort of an auxiliary job for them, but that person was consumed by their other job. So we really need somebody who manages facilities and maintains them and whatever. And like town building advisory, we can do some starting stuff, but until you have a person who works for the town who does facilities, it's not going to happen, right? I think that, I mean, the feedback I get from the select board and then from Christopher Dunn, and you know, there's support for that concept, but it's gonna. I think really we're sort of treading water until the new highway department person is hired.
Yeah.
This would be a new position, so it would have to go through the finance committee and stuff too.
It could be, so I don't know the answer, right? I don't think anybody knows the answer right now, because when you hire the highway department person, they're going to look at the people within the highway department and figure out how to manage those people in those positions. There are decisions to be made about, for example, how much work the highway department does themselves versus how much they contract out for things like street repairs and, you know, that kind of thing. And that will affect how much equipment they have and maintain. And so all of those decisions and the management of that whole department is sort of up for discussion, but until you have that discussion, and I'm not really involved in those discussions. That's select board and probably Christopher Dunn and whoever else is managing this hiring of this highway superintendent position. But the hope is, and there seems to be pretty good consensus that the hope is that one of the things this highway superintendent will do will be establish a position that is focused on facilities. And if that means one less person, and then that person, you know, if they're available, when they're available, it's not going to be a full-time job necessarily, can then be helping driving a snow plow or whatever, you know, in the rest of the time.
That makes sense. Emma, do you have a question?
Yeah, a couple of things. One is that the climate leadership project, the climate leadership community, the grant is ready for, we need to apply for the grant for the roadmap. They have money available right now, and we need to apply for that. And again, that will tie in because they will be assessing all the buildings and doing all of that kind of thing for the 2050 roadmap. So that coordinates, and hopefully, Julie, you know, you and I or whatever, as we, I think we'll try and apply for that. Now that town meeting is over, we'll try and get that applied for immediately as one of the many of the 4 or 5 steps that we need to do to become a climate leader community. And so that was just announced in the last couple of weeks, and I didn't say anything because town meeting was coming up and no one was going to pay attention, but now I'm saying something. And the other thing is, you know, MVP is putting in you know, these rain gardens, and they're putting in this and they're putting in that, but when you're talking about DPW, nobody's in charge of maintaining those, and so they're full of weeds and they're not functioning properly, and so, you know, there needs to be management as we build these new projects and we get more involved in all these other things. It needs to be really clear as to who's responsible for doing what. And you can't count on volunteers, you know, maybe for a couple of years, but then their kids graduate from the elementary school and they're done, blah, 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 blah. So, you know, that's a piece. And then also the same thing and this is a little bit different, but we just got the grant for the HVAC system for the elementary school. And last time there was nobody overseeing that, and nobody sort of was responsible for the last time we got a grant that did the same kind of thing. And Bill Hildreth and was upset about it, or his predecessor was, and who's in charge and what's going on. So again, taking responsibility when we get a grant or we do something or we have a project, and then what we forget to do often is to assign somebody responsibility who's a town employee who will actually follow through.
And that needs to be part of the decision about whether you even apply for the grant in the first place. Honestly.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I think Bill Hildreth, my impression is Bill Hildreth is all over that grant for the elementary school, and that he'll be engaged in.
I think he will, but I just want to make sure that the communication between the town who gets the money and Bill Hildreth, who spends the money, is good, because we've spent a lot of time trying to repair relationships with them, with the Energy Committee, and I would hate to have it go sour on us again.
Thank you, MA. Jim?
I just had a question. How much facilities maintenance does the highway department currently do? Do we know?
No, I don't think
Not
much.
a lot.
Yeah.
Not a lot. It's pretty much so. This is hearsay, and this is a recorded meeting, but it was pretty much like there is funding in the budget for maintenance of facilities. The library has been pretty good about staying on top of maintenance of the library. The schools are all over it. They're good. Their maintenance is good. All of the other buildings fall under the highway department, and it's as things come up, they get it done, and then they look at how much is in the budget at the end of the year, and they do a couple little projects. And it's really been like, it used to be pretty much Kevin Scarborough and John Pachurik would work together to get a couple projects done in the various buildings, but it has not been an organized, like, if you have what we keep talking about is a person who focuses on facilities, who can go around and do almost like handyman stuff themselves, up to some level, but they're paying attention to the facilities. And so when there's something that needs more maintenance, and they have maintenance schedules and they plan it, that they can schedule it and get it accomplished.
You need to be proactive rather than reactive.
Yes.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And all these new buildings that we're building are supposed to come with maintenance schedules. Like when you get the building, you get a schedule that says what to do when for the various stuff, as long as we stay on top of it.
So shouldn't this be the Department of Public Works or Public Works Department as opposed to Highway Department? Because
I keep saying it is the part. It is
DPW.
it's DPW, Department of Public
Okay.
Works. I'm
Okay.
using the wrong term.
Okay, thank you. Because I'm like going, I thought I didn't know what we had for real, because we
Right.
do
It's
for
DPW.
both those terms. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no, Julie, I totally agree. And I think one of the first steps, and once again, this is hearsay, that a lot of people in the DPW, I mean, a lot of them are doing the same thing. And I think what they need to do is to do a staff inventory of skills to see, because they may not have someone who is skilled to do that. So I think you really need to start there and to see what are they doing now, and what's their skill set.
It's management, and you need the manager.
Exactly. Yeah. So hopefully that will happen. That is the hope. All right. Well, thanks. That was a good conversation. Lily, what's happening in senior housing land?
Well, I've got senior housing and I got
And-
CC, right?
Yeah.
All right, so you will find my committee report written in the committee reports folder. However, as you all know, the special town meeting warrant article passed, hallelujah. we're moving forward with the final environmental assessment, which will presumably take place October 29th. Senior Housing's meeting tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. to review the proposed contract. I've contacted Christopher Dunn to give him a heads up that we need this to happen fast because it needs to happen before the ground freezes. And I want to notify the neighbors when it's happening too, because it's these machines coming in and they're drilling holes. And this is all about there were 3 oil tanks removed from the property in 2003. None of them were, they were all documented as not leaking, but one of them had water in it. So, the OTO assessment was that we should do this, they drill holes and they let the water go through, and then they measure whatever's in there to make sure there's no contaminants. And so we have money from our CPC budget still for the whole St. James site, securing the St. James site. So we actually have something like $90,000 still. And after the environmental assessment, and then we're also going to be talking with FERCog about having them manage the procurement process. So we're writing the RFP. It will be reviewed by Christopher Dunn. It will be reviewed by Christine Medor from Mass Housing Partners. And we're also talking about having a community review of the RFP, which I think, I don't know how many people will actually come, but it would be good for people to see what it is, the criteria that we put in there that reflects what we've heard from the community and stuff. So those are the next steps, is putting the RFP together, the possible community review, get the procurement contract signed with FERCog, and we want to brainstorm on more ways to make ourselves attractive to developers. So we've, Rachel Loeffler from Berkshire Design said that, we've already done so much more than so many people do, and especially the whole wetlands delineation, getting the ORAD and stuff like that. It makes it really clear to developers what they're looking at. So that's pretty cool, but what else can we do? Because we want the best. Anyway, concerns that we have, the former owner, Lori Cuevas, still has her stuff in the buildings, which may have actually worked in our favor because the insurance appraiser was by, and it's very clearly being used for storage, which is much cheaper for the town to insure than empty building. So we're being used for storage. And the plan is to, when the former owner gets her stuff out, we're going to use it to store the EDS stuff, which is the emergency dispensary stuff in the church. And the senior housing committee will use one of the rectory rooms as an office or a place for people to meet when the developers come and things like that, so that it will be in use and not empty. The other big thing that is a concern is that I don't know how many of you attended like the whole CPC thing last year about this massive painting that was a triptych that hung in the church. And it's been sitting in the church, the unheated, air-conditioned church now, draped over pews. It was horribly attacked by some people. While it was still in the previous owner's hand, so not a town liability. Anyway, so Friends of Deerfield owns this, and we need to get them to remove it. And I spoke with Christopher Dunn about giving the former owner a deadline, and also the painting. Dealing with painting. Painting is not going to be easy. I feel for those guys. But we don't want it as a liability for the town, that's for sure. Okay, any questions about senior housing?
Yeah, just one question, Lily. So when you do that, I mean, if there are brownfields issues, do you know, is there funding to
That's exactly what we would go and pursue, and we would want to do that. It seems highly, highly unlikely because
Yeah.
there were no leaks in the tanks. I don't know. and it was also 2003. So I
Mhm.
would suspect that had there been leaks, considering the way water moves there, that the polluting would have already been done. So I'm, fairly confident that there won't be an issue, but we want to be absolutely certain. But yeah, we will have
Right.
to see that.
Okay, thanks.
Sure. And I don't know if you pursued that with the church, because they're the ones who had them taken out. I don't know.
Yeah.
That would not be
Mm.
fun. Anyway, all right, so CPC. So Kathy Sylvester, our NOVA leader, has been going great guns, doing an amazing job taking care of a lot of stuff that needed to be done. We now have a fillable PDF for our application. Hallelujah. That thing was a nightmare. We're going to work on breaking it up into the specific categories next. We have one application from the Tri-Town Beach for open space and rec money. They want to put in a dock, which looks really cool, and they've been working really hard. That's got to be split between Whately and Deerfield. It's called Tri-Town Beach, but I believe that it's Duo Town.
Yeah, that's correct.
That's true.
Yeah.
Long
So that's
story.
and there was something up on the website for a DES playgrounds, 2 of them, one for the younger group and one for the older group, but it's gone now, and hasn't been submitted as an application. Our deadline is November 1st, as I keep reminding everybody. November 1st is our deadline. But wow, it looked like a lot of money when I did see it. I didn't download it, otherwise I'd be able to tell you how much. I mean, like, it looked like close to $1 million or something, if I remember. Yes, exactly, Julie. I'm like, whoa. So that will be interesting to see. I don't know. Yeah, I just don't know. I don't know where that's supposed to be coming from. Anyway, the other thing that CPC is doing is that we are required to have a plan, and we've never had one. And Kathy is working on that. We had a public community meeting, as is also required by law, and got some input, but not really enough to help inform the plan. So I think we're going to be relying somewhat on the open space survey of a couple of years ago, where they actually had people talk about, they ranked their what's important to them, historical preservation, et cetera, et cetera. So we'll probably use a bunch of that and develop a plan. The purpose of the plan is for when these moments arise that we have to decide, because we have X in the pot and we have X plus Y requests, right? So we need a way to know how the community would prefer that we recommend those projects. So, and with those playgrounds, we might have that. So that's what we're working on. And then the applications will be coming in starting November 1st. We meet November 13th to begin the public review of them.
Hey, Laylee, just, when you just said that, I think that's really interesting, because that's what we do on CIPC. I mean, I think, what do we have, like 5 different categories? And the first and foremost is health and safety. I think the second one is, we already know where the funding is coming from. I don't remember exactly, but yeah, so we've got, prioritize the projects, which I think makes things a lot easier for us. So it's not as though we go and say, well, I like this project better than the other one. So we actually do follow a formula and then pass that to the finance committee, which I think has been helpful.
Very
Yeah.
much so.
Yeah. So I think that's great with CPC to do this.
Yeah, the challenge with CPC is that we have these specific pots already. And
Okay.
tension comes on the unencumbered funds. So,
Okay.
but what's interesting to me is, like, let's say DES and Tri-Town Beach are going for open space and rec. And open space and rec has like 40 grand in it. I think they'll have 70. But, so obviously the playgrounds are going to tap the unencumbered funds as well. So how do we figure out I don't know, I don't know, we'll see, but the priorities, if it goes up against, like, I think historical preservation was one of the highest, if I remember correctly, from the survey, I don't remember, but let's just say it is, if it goes up against that, then that's a real problem. Julie, you had a question?
I was just gonna say that Town Building Advisory did a survey about space needs several years ago. But as part of that, there was also feedback on priorities, like what you like about Deerfield and stuff like that.
Oh.
So there might be useful data there.
Love that.
And we got
Yeah.
pretty good response to that. There were a lot of people that responded. So
Is that,
I will find that,
so-
send that to you.
is it on the website in the TBAC land?
I think it is,
Okay.
probably.
All right, note to self, I will go and
If
dig.
it's not, I will dig it up, but it
Okay.
used to be there.
Good.
That would be great, thank you.
Right.
Yay for CCI.
Hooray,
Yeah, I
right?
know.
I
No
mean,
kidding.
yeah.
I know. By the way, November 10th is our 3-year anniversary.
Whoa.
I know,
So-
hard to believe, of our first meeting.
Are we going to Treehouse?
I think that's a really good idea. I like that. We can do that. So Lily, anything else for
That's it for
CPC?
senior
Anything?
housing and CPC.
Okay, anybody have any questions of Lily on anything? If not, I'll move on to Mark.
All right.
You look so serious, Mark.
Yeah, so not a whole lot going on with CIPC. On October 16th, Greg sent out the memo just to kind of get all of the boards and committee chairs and everybody, department heads, to submit their capital requests. So those are supposed to come in by December 1st. They don't always do, but hopefully we'll have most of those in there. Yeah.
So I have a question about that, and I'm so glad you brought it up. We don't have it for senior housing right now. We don't have anything new, but I think we're on there from the past, right? You don't need an update from us or anything, do you, if we're not asking for new money?
So I think the memo actually talks about that. So I think I'll have to get back to you on that. I think there actually is
If it's in
there-
the
there are
memo, I will read it. I got terrified, put on my rubber bumpers and marked it as unread. I'll come back to later. Okay, so if you knew. Thanks, Mark. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, no problem. So that's going out, or I'm sorry, that has gone out. The memo itself asked for everything within the next 5 years, but the CIPC is actually going to be working on a 15-year plan. So Greg also, emailed everyone and basically put that request forward. So everyone who got that first email should have actually gotten 2. So everyone should have seen that we're looking to do a 15-year plan as well. So we're going to be working on that. It's kind of hard well, we've got a couple challenges with that. I mean, the first is it's hard to anticipate what all the requests are going to be. Even though there's ways that we can find out what we have for assets, we get like really oddly specific requests, that come in from year to year. So even though we know that we have a high school, for instance, we don't know when they're going to make a request for resurfacing their tennis courts. So that's challenge number one. And then the second challenge of this every year is, with the 5-year plan, and will be a challenge for the 15-year as well, is CIPC is a pass-through committee. So any of those capital requests that come through don't originate and can't originate through CIPC. So we really are dependent to a large extent, on those requests coming through the various department heads and committee chairs and stuff. But starting this year, I'm going to try and, persuade people to get as much in as they can. We may even want to entertain the idea of, somehow having both a stick and a carrot for, the departments that do work with us and try and get some of those things on the 15-year plan. So we may, consider that as a factor. I'm not sure. We'll have to see when the committee meets, but there are some departments that know, like for instance, like, DPW, they know well ahead of time, 20 years ahead of time when their equipment's going to have to be replaced. So I know not everyone can do that. We don't know how much wear the pickleball players are putting on the tennis courts. So, we might not know exactly when that needs to be resurfaced. But yeah, we're going to try and do what we can to get as much as possible on that 15-year plan.
I think Jim knows about the wear on the pickleball courts.
Hey, we just resurfaced them. They should last for a while. Jeez.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think as far as the town, the actual town hall goes, I mean, we've got all the technology, we've got our amazing sound system. I'd love to know, with the useful lifetime, how old the equipment is, and when we do move over to 1888, what's coming with us, and what, I mean, is it going to interface with anything new? I mean, probably laptops and desktops are fine, but as far as anything else, it's probably just going to be trashed, I would think.
Yeah.
Okay. So, that's something else to think about. Okay.
Yep.
Great. Well, thanks, Mark. Yeah, can you ask Greg? I mean, even though he sent that out once, people need reminders.
Oh yeah. I definitely intend on doing that. Our
Thank
biggest
you.
problem is, we get those coming in, the following January, every year. It's not even like that they're a couple weeks late. Sometimes what we'll do is we'll get halfway through the process and still have a few more roll in. So I
Yeah,
definitely want to, see if we can get people to get those submitted on time.
definitely. Lily, question?
Yeah, well, actually, I mean, you triggered something, which is the beauty of CCI. We have added in the CPC application, we have a checkbox that says if your application is for more than 10 grand, you have informed the CIPC. And so you should have something from, oh, Tri-Town Beach is probably under that. No, I didn't go.
Tri-Town Beach
Really?
came in at 5 or 7 grand or something like
I
that.
thought
So
it was
they're
15.
But it's divided. So
yeah, there were two pieces to whatever they were doing. But we did actually have a request that came through last year, and they decided that they wanted to
Right.
put it
they're
in for
gonna
this
put
next
this, I know.
fiscal year. Yep.
But anyway, I just wanted to give you the heads up that that is actually something, because it happened to us in senior housing. We had no clue that we were supposed to go to CIPC because we were getting our funding through CPA.
Yeah.
No idea that, of course it makes sense, right? It is a capital improvement. Anyway, so I just wanted to let you know about that. And hopefully that will at least get stuff coming to you, not through committee chairs, but through applicants.
Great. Thanks.
Thank
All
you.
right. Anything else, Mark? Any other questions for Mark? Nope. Okay, I'll move on to MA. Energy Committee.
Energy Committee is meeting this week, so we don't have a lot new. We're very excited about all the progress at town meeting, and now we're going to start focusing on the climate leadership community applications. Looking forward to the roadmap and a couple of other things, and then starting to educate the community on the specialized stretch code. So there's really not a lot going on for us right now. We're hoping that the money gets spent very quickly on the elementary school upgrades on the HVAC system, so that we can put in an application as soon as that money is expended for doing the exact same thing at the high school. And so, we basically have all the data and everything ready, so that application's ready to go in, but we have to spend the money first. So we're sort of pushing, making sure that doesn't get, just sort of fall behind.
So MA, does that have to be committed or actually expended?
Expended.
Okay. All right. Okay.
And reports in.
Oh, okay. Okay. Got it. Okay. And when is the next time that you can get funding, put an application in?
It'll be the spring sometime, but I'm not sure when.
Okay. All right, great. Nothing else from energy? No,
No.
okay. Okay, I've got a couple things. Planning board, boy, we've been pretty quiet lately. Nothing. We've had a couple A&Rs, which always cracks me up. It's approval not required. So why it comes to the planning board, I don't know. But for property that's being divided, so it's been pretty quiet. And we have spoken. I did speak with Christopher Dunn, oh, probably a month ago, excuse me, about our master plan and looking towards FERCog to see their ability to help us with that, because it's going to be huge. I mean, there are 5 different parts to the master plan, but and also the funding that goes with that. And I think Casey had mentioned something about some funding coming that typically comes out in January. So, with everything that's been going on in town and Christopher essentially doing 2 jobs plus, I haven't been pushing him on that, but I will ask him. I just need to know, is the FERCog able to help us out, and is there funding? And then we'll move forward after that, probably after the new year. So the next thing is, and I forgot, Leela, didn't tell you, but I did have a conference call with VHB. It ended up being just a conference call because there's something wonky with Teams. And they just wanted to hear an update on the campus. And, we were just talking about everything that's going on. And I think it was right before town meeting. So, hopefully what would pass, and, talking about senior housing, and also what's going on with Yankee Candle, which I'm still not totally clear. I know Yankee Candle, part of it was moving out, but they don't own the buildings. They're leasing it from another entity. And so, there's talk about, the potential of maybe doing some other housing there, possibly like a small boutique hotel, which just means under 100 rooms, maybe a small market. I mean, who knows? These are just thoughts. Thoughts that are going through, but they're just terrific to work with. And I said, we'd keep them updated. And Lily, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, I do. Because you're triggering something in my brain. And this was
Okay.
something that Christine Medor had said to me before. She's the woman from the assistant director for Mass Housing Partners.
Yep.
And this all gets back to a 40B. Okay, and
Okay.
number one, in the new state budget, there are specific funds for converting offices into workforce housing, which would be really sweet. And that's what I think we ought to do with Yankee Candle personally. I gotta get senior housing over the line, but I think that's really important. But 2, our housing production plan is over 10 years old, and our subsidized housing is at 1.5%, and we're required by law to be at 10%. Because we passed the senior housing thing, we stand a chance of claiming safe harbor. Safe harbor only applies for 1 to 2 years, depending on whoever's granting it, apparently. But you have to have a housing production plan and be working to fulfill it.
Mm-hmm.
And I raise this because the last housing production plan was created by the planning board. But now we have a planner. Sorry, now we have a planner. Right?
Yeah.
And so maybe it's something to bring up with Christopher, but it is it's really important, I think, to know that there's this big funding source for converting offices into workforce housing. Plus, we need a housing production plan to get safe harbor in the event of an unfriendly 40B. Now, does everybody in this room know what an unfriendly 40B is?
I do.
Okay.
I do.
Okay. Well, Jim, an unfriendly 40B means that because we don't have 10% of our housing is affordable, and I mean really affordable, not Snowberry affordable, 80% of area median income. And we don't have that. It means that a developer can come in and ignore our bylaws. They can ignore our height requirements, they can ignore our setbacks, they can ignore our zoning. And if we want to grow our community, in a sane manner, then it's important to be able to do this. Also, we desperately need to have housing in this town that people can. Anyway, so just wanted to bring that, boom, I forgot all about it.
No, thank you. Thank you. I think that's really important. And I've got that on my list, but I hesitate to ask, I mean, I can mention that, but certainly not going to push for that right now. But I think that's really good. Once again, VHB was wonderful. Christine's wonderful. So Jim?
Yeah, so first of all, you should have mentioned that at the special town meeting. That might have swayed a lot of people's or at least the people who were ambivalent about the idea, but they passed it anyway. So,
Yeah.
so forgive me for asking though. Okay, the former Yankee Candle offices, that's owned by a private owner of some kind or a company, right?
Mm-hmm.
Why are we talking about what to do with it at all then? I mean, are they
Well, I don't know.
not interested? I mean, do they not have tenants? Do they have
Well, no, I think,
letting the building go?
and Jim, once again, I don't know 100%, but I think the part of it may be one of the warehouses. So, I mean, I'm just talking off the top of my head. I actually did go to a meeting with, I think it was with Christopher Dunn and with Tim, oh gosh, a while ago. And at that point, the gentleman that we spoke with, Wayne Bassett, Christopher, you were there, right? Yeah. He really didn't have a whole lot to say, and I'm not sure whether he still doesn't have a whole lot to say about what's going on there. So, I just wanted to mention that. Nothing, we don't really know anything at this point, but we'll keep looking into it. So, okay. So since Christopher's here, I will ask Christopher to give his report.
Great, thanks everyone. Sorry I'm an hour late to this meeting.
Okay.
I had a personnel board meeting. Let me just pull up my list of projects here. And if somebody Jim, did you already speak about the library and what's going on there?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Although, if you know something, if you've had any developments about grants that have happened since October the 4th or whatever it was, you would know more about it than I would.
The only thing I would potentially add to what you've already said is the Mass Cultural Facilities Fund grant program was announced. And I had a meeting with Candace and Nancy this morning. So we're looking at, it won't fund capital campaign, but it will fund individual capital projects. And so there was some discussion about whether or not that was a way to do the FF&E or one of the ad alternates, as they're called, above the base bid. So either that canopy that was proposed for the building, I think there was wood ceilings was another ad alt, and then there was kind of a catch-all that included landscaping and the circulation desk, and a whole bunch of other things. So it sounded like, their preference was to apply and look at funding, the shelving and seating and basically the FF&E to $200,000 worth. So more to come on that front. Candace and I are going to meet with MCC on Thursday. They have staff hours, so we'll kind of let them know what we're thinking, and we'll see if that's a viable project. And then the other thing I would mention, Greg Snedeker, our new assistant town administrator, has a bit of a development background, actually. So he's kind of jumping in to help the library with the capital campaign and see if we can get it across the finish line. So 2 quick updates there on the library. 1888, we had obviously, past town meeting, the CPC funding. So at this point, we just had our kind of kickoff with the reconstituted 1888 building committee that includes a couple CPC members. Our consultant and their subcontractors took up the whole time talking about the schedule and trying to figure out how they're all going to get it done in time for the spring. But so more to come on that front. I did just want to flag, one thing that came up for our planning board is, that project is subject to site plan approval. So that something would come before the planning board. And Denise, I don't know, I think you guys are meeting, I think like December 1st or 2nd.
The next meeting's November 18th.
Sorry, after that. Yeah, after
Okay,
that.
yeah, it would be the first Monday in December.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. So there might be something for the
Yeah.
planning board at that point. So more to
Okay,
come.
good.
Yeah.
There was some discussion
Um,
about asking you guys to push that meeting off a week. Is that something that that planning board would consider? To give them an extra week to get the information together for the
Oh,
site?
the December meeting? Yeah, we could, yeah. If that's what needed, yeah, we could definitely do that. Sure. We just let me know what's going on and we can discuss that at our November 18th meeting. I'll have Amy put that on the agenda. Okay. So.
Yeah, and it's both a site plan approval and a stormwater permit. So let me make a note.
Yep. I'll put it on for the 2nd and the 9th, so just let me know which works best.
Great. All right. Leary lot. So I don't know if people have stopped by the lot lately. It's making great progress. They've installed the unbelievably enormous electrical cabinet to power the level 3 chargers. And those chargers are scheduled to arrive in early November. Right now, the challenge the project is having is just getting Eversource to provision a transformer in time. So, hopefully they're excited enough about the project that they'll bump us in line and get us a transformer sooner rather than later. But this is always kind of the snag that these projects run into, is just there's not enough transformers, and there might be a storm tomorrow in New Hampshire and they need to send it up there instead of keeping it down here. So we'll see. But otherwise, it's that project's moving along nicely. Trying to think what I already updated you. Oh, Elm Street. So Complete Streets project. Just as a reminder, this was looking at kind of redoing the streetscape between Railroad and North Main Street on Elm Street, to include better pedestrian bike facilities, parallel parking rather than the angled parking we have currently. So it's a project that could really only happen once we have all the parking in the Leary lot. So I submitted a grant application at the beginning of the month. Ty and Bond was our consultant, and they came up with a couple great ideas that we ran through by some folks at an open house in September. So now we're just waiting on the announcement of funding, and it could be up to $500,000 in construction funding. So that would be fantastic. And I also submitted an application for an ADA municipal improvement grant for that project. So there's also potentially some ADA money that we could use to improve those sidewalks. So hopefully, we'll hear about all of that pretty soon, and be able to look at finalizing a plan there and actually, launching into construction on that next spring at some point. So more to come. Let's see. Shared senior services, the feasibility study for the new building. So I had an interesting meeting today with the Boo. So, as people might have seen, it's still kind of between these two options, South Deerfield and Whately. We had clarified with the consultant that we didn't necessarily just want to look at the church. There's obviously, now that the 1888 project is moving forward again, the possibility of reusing the space where 8 Conway Street, the current town hall, is. So the consultant's going to be taking a look at that as well. Yeah, so we'll see. They're I think gonna be working for most of, well, really all the rest of October on coming up with these kind of draft concepts, and then they'll present them in November, and we'll all get a chance to weigh in. So keep an eye out for that. Lily, question?
Yeah, I have a question. I went to the senior center open house that those guys held, and I was sort of curious, do we have results from that yet, from the community feedback? Do you know?
Yeah, and I think Jen sent around an email. I'm happy to pull it up, or I can forward it to you later. I think to me the main takeaways. So they did a community forum type thing in the morning, and then in the afternoon they actually had focus groups that were sort of, people from each town and, cross sections of the community basically. I think the big takeaway to me was just that Sunderland option that had been on the table, just no one was willing to drive there. So it was almost in Amherst. So that was the big one I heard. And then I know I also did hear from folks that they weren't necessarily interested in moving into the existing town hall in Deerfield, but that they were open to that spot,
So-
reusing that spot in some capacity.
I'm curious about, I was talking with the architects and they said that there are like two groups of people, those that want a community center with senior space and time and programming, and those that want just a senior center. Do you know, and I know that was one of the things that they were asking, do you know how that came out?
I'm not certain. Let me reach out to, I think it was Jen, but also the consultant would have, and just see if they have some results that I can, send around to CCI.
To me, it's really, with senior housing there, obviously, a senior center would be sweet. But, I mean, I love the idea of a community center, so it's a multi-generational, blah, 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 but I'm one of those, so. Anyway, I was just curious about that. Thanks.
That'll be the 1821 building, Lily. Jim, you've got your hand up?
I was gonna say, at one of the public input hearings about the town campus project, this woman who lives, retiree, lives across the Main Street, sat through the whole meeting just so that she could get up at the end and say that, speaking as a retiree, she doesn't want a senior center, she wants a community center. I kind of felt like she, everybody kind of nodded along when she said that. So, I'm kind of wondering why this is even an issue anymore.
Well, the problem why it's an issue is that it's a 3-town senior center. So it's not just Deerfield making decisions. So, but I think it complicates matters because if it ends up being in Deerfield, we will own the building. So that'll be
Exactly.
really
Can't
interesting.
the Tri-Town Senior Center use the Deerfield Community Center as its primary location?
They could.
I mean,
Yeah.
it seems like this is all just a matter of what sign we put on the door rather than what's actually happening.
Yeah. Well, I think it'll be interesting also, Christopher, because I did Zoom in on some of those meetings afterwards. No, I'm sorry, I didn't attend the Zoom. I watched them like I do. And I was really surprised that they're saying, oh, we need 15 to 18,000 square feet. And I'm there, what planet do you actually live on? I mean, we've talked about the Hadley Center, Senior Center, that is amazing. That is 10,000 square feet and more than adequate for, and they have a town of 5,000 people. So, I mean, I was just shocked to hear they really want 15 to 18,000 square feet.
So this was another thing that came up in the Boo meeting today. And I know, so what we had talked to the consultant about was looking at doing what was called their priority programming in a space where the current town hall is. So that's, like roughly 6,000 square feet. And then if you want to do additional programming, well, then that's maybe where the meeting house, I'll call it by its correct name, Julie, the meeting house or, one of our other spaces around there actually comes into play. But, it's definitely a point of discussion. You ask our senior center director and she'll say, no, it's got to be 15,000. And so, yeah, it's a conversation.
I say good luck to that, but hey.
There are a lot
Any
of
other
seniors who
senior
are
center
pretty
questions?
unhappy about their taxes. So. That's part of the
Yeah.
discussion too.
I'm trying to think any other. No, you covered complete streets. I don't know.
I was just asking if there were more senior center questions. I've got plenty of more projects.
Oh, I'm sure you do.
No, real quick, I did just want to mention, so the town successfully got a $100,000 rural development fund grant. So this is basically an economic development project between Whately and Deerfield. We have neighboring industrial parks. For 40 years, they've sat next to each other without a road between them for whatever reason. And so the study is looking at that actually making that road connection happen, and then also whether or not we can expand our wastewater collection system into Whately as well, bring on some additional users, help us defray some of that the debt service from the upgrades that happen at the South Deerfield wastewater treatment plant. So that project going to be kicking off probably next month at some point. DPCs who we generally use for our wastewater consultants, so they'll be helping us out with that a bit. Any questions on that one? I know it's kind of a new one.
Do you know when they would have those results? I mean, how long of a process is that?
It's just a year-long grant, so it's really just a planning study. So probably by this time next year, we'll have some kind of report. Yeah.
Great.
Pecumtuck Ridge, just wanted to touch on this really quick. So obviously at special town meeting, they had a couple parcels that they were considering putting under Article 97 protection. We did that with Pine Nook Forest. We decided to hold up and wait on Pecumtuck Rock. And I know at that meeting, no one kind of said why that was. So I guess I just wanted to bring it up.
I was wondering.
Yeah,
so
me too.
And this was kind of one of those things that I inherited from Casey and didn't necessarily have time to do as much due diligence as I wanted to, so we kind of decided to press pause. But there's a bunch of cell towers on top of Pecumtuck Rock, and we were not fully sure how the Article 97 protection would limit our abilities to replace those facilities or do what we need to do in the future if something were to happen to them. It's kind of a tricky thing because it is sort of the crown jewel of Pecumtuck Ridge in some ways, but it also happens to have this really important infrastructure on it. So the next step is I sent Julie Caswell an email about this today, hopefully getting some kind of survey, and so we can have better delineation about exactly where those cell tower facilities are, where their rights of way are, all of those kinds of things, so that we can be ready in the spring to come back with an article that captures, hey, we want to make sure we're not restricting these particular spaces, but we do want to place the rest of this under Article 97 protection. Lily.
That would be a fantastic CPC request. Just saying.
Oh,
Deadline.
I did mention that. I did mention that.
deadline
So
November 1st.
yeah, they're gonna have to get a lot done in the next week, but I'm happy to help them out. It's been, it's funny. That's like, one of the parts of the Pecumtuck Ridge I've hiked and it is like, oh, this is an incredible view. And then there's cell towers right there. So but it is what it is. So anyway, more to come on that front. Let's see what else. Mill Village Road. So we had this project with the Mass Department of Transportation to look at the intersection of Mill Village, North Main, and Route 5 and 10. Very dangerous intersection if people have driven through there. Just wanted to mention MassDOT is doing what they call a road safety audit meeting. It's going to be at the fire district building in South Deerfield. So if people have strong feelings about that intersection, let us know so we can convey it to MassDOT. But they've been very helpful, and they're probably going to look at either installing a light or a roundabout or something to that effect to kind of calm traffic there, because it's it's a hazardous intersection. Yes, Lily.
When's the meeting? Do you know?
Yeah, it's on October 30th from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. And I'm not sure what the capacity of that building is.
Is it open to the public? Do you know?
Well, it seems to be in a murky spot.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure. I guess I would say don't show up with a crowd.
Okay.
Yeah.
My son was in an accident there. I would love to see something happen with that. It's a very dangerous intersection.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think I want to say Trevor's father was in an accident at some point, and that, you know, it's everyone seems to have a story about that intersection. So yeah, very glad MassDOT's helping us look at it.
Well, people are always passing on the right, in
That's
both
what happened.
directions. Like
Yeah, they weren't.
constantly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
my in-laws and my son were, getting ready to turn. Someone did a right lane pass,
Oh,
and
yeah.
that's exactly what happened. Yep.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
if people have input on that, who should they relay that input to?
You feel free to send it to me, and I'm happy to pass it on to MassDOT. And I think, Wayne Manley and Patricia Taylor have been the residents who have been really supportive of that.
Yeah.
And Chief Pachurik, from a public safety standpoint, is also, obviously, if you communicated with him, he would convey that to MassDOT as well. MA?
Actually, I'm going to change the subject, so go ahead and.
No, please do, because I'm out of projects, so.
The Climate Leadership Program has come out with the roadmap grant, and I just wanted to give you a heads up. I'm also talking to Allison Gage, and we'd really like to get that application in.
Is that a statement or a question?
It's a heads up to Christopher, and if he is, as to his role in that, and whether we should be talking to somebody else.
I would say you can talk to me about it, but maybe send me an email and CC our new assistant town administrator also. So
Okay.
Greg and I can figure out who's going to be tackling that.
Okay.
That would be
I
great.
don't think it's a big, reach to do. I think it's a pretty simple thing, but I'll find out about it from Chris Mason and get you all the information. All of both.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Great. Okay. So is that all you have, Christopher? As if it's not enough.
That's it for the moment.
Well,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah.
No, go ahead.
Oh, no, the only other thing I was going to mention, and somebody may have already said it, but in fact, probably Mark brought it up. CIPC applications. Yeah, he probably brought it up.
Right.
So
Yep.
remind.
No,
Thanks, Mark.
And thank you for the amazing job that you're doing.
Yeah.
We really appreciate it. I mean, you're doing the job of two people and doing it well. So thank you. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, well, all I can say is I'm so glad Greg got here when he did.
Yeah,
Because he's been phenomenal. And if you haven't met Greg yet,
Yeah.
please stop by. He's so great.
Yeah.
So
he's great.
lucky.
I mean, he helped us out. That's a good segue into the UMass students. We did this through, and I think Rachel, what's her last name? Loeffler?
Yeah.
Yes.
She was the one that recommended. I think she's friends with Carolina Aguilar, I think, who's absolutely wonderful. And her students, Aragon, thank you. And I think she initially got in touch with you, Christopher, and you were sort of tapped out. So MA and I sort of met with them and the grad students, and they were just wonderful. So we gave them a tour around the campus, I think September 16th. And then it was just a quick 7-week seminar for them, or whatever you call it. And they came up with some really cool projects and did that. Was that last week? I lose track of time. They were wonderful. And there's some posters that are still there that we'll figure out what to do. But I think Cassie was wondering what to do. And she said it's probably better to leave them on instead of rolling them up and having them get destroyed. So, we'll take care of them. But it was really wonderful. There's some really good projects. So we were thrilled to be working with them. What's really nice is that Carolina said, the students will be gone, but she said, I'll still be here. So that was so good to hear, because we've got Carolina, we've got Ben Wheel. Of course, I don't remember the other person, MA, that's the head of the department. I don't know. It doesn't matter. I mean, anyway,
his name is Brugger, but
okay, we've got some great connections, and it's really nice to have those connections, and hopefully something will pan out with what the students said. I mean, I thought there were some really great ideas. So yeah, when you have a chance, you can go into town hall and check out the posters. Some were real pie in the sky, but the others were really cool. And I think the last thing that I have is that Sunny Days did have, I think it was, when was that? It was last week. They
It
had
was
to
Thursday, same day as
was
the
it? Okay,
presentation.
that's right. That's right. And Ken was there, and I think Brian was the other one who was on Zoom, and it was Amy and me, and then I left, so no one showed up. So I guess they did what they needed to do, and hopefully they're moving on. And I know one of the buildings is well underway, and the other there's foundation happening. So it's good that there's some good movement there. So we're hoping, I mean, I didn't ask Ken. He said, hey, stop by anytime. So maybe I will have a couple of minutes, stop by and, check out. But he said everything's working really well. So we're pretty excited about that. Emma?
Are they doing production and retail, or are
Yeah.
they just?
No, they're going to be doing both. The third thing, they were supposed to be doing testing as well, but that would be
Yeah.
the third party that they were going to outsource to, that they've worked with before, but I don't really remember what happened with that. That
Yeah.
they ended up pulling out of that, which was, I think, really unfortunate, because I thought that was a good part of the business, but we'll see what happens. Ken seems pretty confident that it's going to be great. So yeah, we had conversations about what they could do in the future, but that'll be to be determined. But that is all I have. I mean, does anybody have any other questions? It is 7:48.
There's nothing from MVP as far as I know.
Okay. All right.
Do you have
So,
anything on MVP?
MVP.
Sorry.
Yeah, no. No, I think anything we had, we've reported before. I think Christopher got funding for us again, an MVP. What was that, $179,000?
Yeah, 170,000 for the
Yeah.
action grant to the hydrologic study of Bloody Brook. We're still trying to get contracting done for that.
Okay.
So hopefully that'll kick off in November.
And what's the other one? It's Bloody Brook, and then the other, which
Yeah, and so there's the town already had right. The town already had seed project money for it, and it's Blacksmith / Sugarloaf Brook. It's got two names. I think we've just been calling it Sugarloaf Brook now.
Okay.
But it depends who you ask.
Yeah.
It's the brook with two names. So
right. But I think we determined with because there were some different things that were on the table, possibilities of what to do, and we finally determined that this was the most important project, since we've had some massive storms and flooding in South Deerfield. So I think that was a really good direction to go in. So we're excited to find out what happens with the drillings and moving on. There's some other things. I don't know what else. We had to jump through a whole lot of hoops to get funding. So it's been very interesting meetings. I'll just leave it at that. Okay.
Yeah, but we qualify.
Yeah, I know. Lily?
Yeah, I have another topic, and I know I keep bringing this up, but
okay.
Representation of the schools in this.
Oh, geez, I know.
I'm sorry. I'm a bit more, but they are 70% of our budget.
And I was thinking about that again. And so I guess what I'll try and do is reach out to, I know Darius doesn't want to come to meetings, but reach out to Deerfield. I've got to find out who's on the committee. I did send something to oh God, who was on the committee who never showed up.
Darius could send us a written report and not show up, and we could read it, because like Pete Law does that when he can't show up.
Yeah.
Why not just say it's once every 6 weeks? Give us an update about what's going on, because honestly, when I saw the request for money for the playgrounds, I was blown away. I knew they wanted to do playground money, but I mean, it would have been anyway. So I think that a simple report about, like, these are the things we're looking at. We're working with the energy committee on doing that, whatever, maybe that's the way to get them to participate.
Also-
Lily, I agree, but I think one thing, I think it's way beyond asking Darius to do that. I think it needs to be a greater conversation with the town and with the schools, because I totally agree. It's like, you know, you're right, it's always 70% of our budget, and they decide they want to do something. And I know they've not played well with the Energy Committee in the past and just made this, unilateral decision without even taking into consideration what the Energy Committee had to say. So I find that
And they didn't
problem.
Also,
say, well, with
also
CPC.
CPC. Yeah,
Yeah.
same thing,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's why we lost
So,
here. So,
okay, let me think about this and think about who should be speaking with Darius. I mean, I can speak with him. I'll be nice, I promise.
I will just add, so one role that Greg is kind of taking on is because he has this background with schools. He worked at a private school for about 17 years, and then his main project as a select board member in Gill has been doing this kind of what they call super regionalization, so combining multiple school districts, and so he's been doing that for like the last 7 years. So he kind of knows all things schools. So not to put something on his plate, but I would just say if you want somebody, town staff, to help out, he's a great resource for that kind of thing, and he would probably be more than happy to kind of
Wow.
bring them back
That-
into the conversation a little bit.
That's a great idea, Christopher. And I
Yeah.
know I said to Greg, I said, yeah, I want to sit down and meet and just have a conversation. And then I had COVID and felt like garbage for a couple of weeks. So I'll get in touch with him. I may be down at town hall tomorrow for something else. So I will speak with him, but thank you. I think that's great. Julie?
I think all four town finance committees are supportive of the concept of regionalization of the elementary schools and would be willing to work with people and have discussions about that.
Woo-hoo!
Probably targeted at when the schools need replacement, the buildings,
Oh,
which is going to be coming up sooner than we want it to. But
yeah, that's for sure. Interesting. God. Okay.
And that is definitely something Greg would love to talk to you about. So, yeah.
okay.
Okay. Wow. Well, thanks for
Um,
that, Christopher. I will get in
Denise,
touch with Greg.
If-
Yep.
I'd like to sit in on that conversation with
Which
Greg,
one?
if you're gonna do it tomorrow.
I mean, not necessarily.
Okay,
I may or may not be at town hall tomorrow, depending whether I've got this other meeting to go to.
okay,
So,
so I'm
yeah.
just curious, I've been on school committee, I have some
Yeah.
history with it, and
Okay.
I'm curious.
I mean,
I'd really like to
Okay.
move things forward in those
Okay.
conversations.
If I do see him, it would just be a preliminary conversation,
Okay.
MA, and then
Yeah.
I'd ask
Yeah.
for something greater and see who should be involved in that.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Great. Okay. So if there are no other questions,
when's our next meeting?
yeah, that's a question. That is the question, Lily. Okay.
I'll throw one more question out there. Is there any update on hiring? Like, did we hire the,
Well, I'm on the hiring committee. Because
well, there's town administrator, but there's also the highway superintendent and the health department person.
Christopher, the health
Right.
department? Yeah.
Yeah, so I can speak to a couple of those at least. So, health agent, we just received an acceptance of an offer today from a gentleman named Ned Savisky. He unfortunately lives all the way in Beckett, so he's going to have a little bit of a commute to Deerfield, but he is very, very qualified.
Ooh,
And yeah, he's so
Beckett.
he's going to be, I think, overlapping with Val for a little bit. And then he should be on, I think it was November 12th is his start date. So stop by and say hi to Ned. And then no posting of the DPW superintendent position at this point. So Chris Miller's still serving as interim. I was just talking to the personnel board in the meeting prior to this about that. They also, just a heads up, the highway department is looking to hire a mechanic in training, or an equipment operator in training, I should say, to help them kind of come all the way up to full staff. But those are my updates in terms of hiring.
Wow. Yeah, as far as town administrator, there'll be interviews probably pretty soon. That's all I have. All right.
Did you get a bunch of applications? I don't care who, I'm not asking that, but do you
We
have
got
a number of
a
people?
dozen applications.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And after the person is hired, no, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, a dozen applications, but not a dozen qualified people. I'll just put it that way.
Not surprising.
Yeah, well, you know, some people you got to reach for the stars, but all right. So next meeting, I don't know. Thoughts? I mean, there's not a lot of, I mean, I think the big thing was special town meeting, sort of waiting for that. November 1st is deadline for that. I don't know. Do you want to go back to Thursdays?
Well, no, we moved to Monday so that Pete could.
Oh, right.
Remember,
right.
it turned out it seemed like it was a better day for everybody.
That's fine.
What about December 2nd?
We may or may not have a planning board meeting December 2nd.
Oh, because it's the first.
I mean, do you think it would be better to have it for December 9th? So we have more information on what the 1888, wait, no, the planning board for December 9th.
Oh,
Because you wanted to put that off, right? Okay, so, okay, I'll just put the planning board, I'll just say it's going to be on the, I can't just say it. I mean, I have to let the other committee members know about that. So I'll tell you what, why don't we, do you want to do it December 2nd? Our meeting?
How about the 16th if
Okay, the 6th, that's
Why
fine.
yeah.
Okay.
I can't do the second. But
Oh, it's okay. So how's the 16th for people?
That works for me.
Fine.
Sound good?
So are we
The-
talking
the
about,
second also would be, the second is also
TCF.
immediately before the December library trustees meeting, whereas the 16th is, you know, I would actually have something to report.
Okay, so December 16th, Monday's December 16th at 6:30. That works? Okay. December 16th at 6:30. Okay, I will get that posted and send that out to everyone. Whoops. Okay. All right. Do I hear a motion?
Motion to adjourn.
Yes. Do we have a second?
Second,
All
second.
right. Okay, Lily.
Oh, wait, I'm
Aye.
doing minutes.
Wait, what? Did I hear a wait? Oh, okay. Okay, Jim, yes. Julie,
Yes.
Mark,
Mark Brennan, aye.
MA,
yes.
Christopher. Okay, excellent. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, everyone, for all your great information.